A 50-kilogram chunk of frozen waste fell out of a clear sky and punched through the roof of a house in Amco village, India. Then it hit Rajrani God on the shoulder. She was 60 years old, sitting on her terrace. She survived because the ice hit the roof first and lost some force before it reached her. That was December 17, 2015. It was not a meteor. It was not hail. It was frozen toilet waste from a commercial jet passing overhead, dyed blue by the disinfectant used in the plane's lavatory tanks. So what actually happens to the waste when you flush at 35,000 feet? And how does it end up dropping through someone's roof? Most people assume one of two things. Either it gets stored and emptied on the ground, or pilots can dump it mid-flight. The first is mostly right. The second is completely wrong. But the real story sits between those two answers, and it explains why chunks of frozen sewage keep falling on people's homes. Modern commercial aircraft use vacuum toilets. You've heard that flush. It sounds like the plane is trying to inhale the whole bowl. The system pulls waste through a valve, using the pressure difference between the pressurized cabin and the much lower pressure outside. At cruising altitude, that gap does the work almost for free. On the ground, a pump creates the same effect. From the bowl, everything goes into a sealed waste tank. Sensors monitor how full it is. When the plane lands, a service vehicle connects to a port on the fuselage and pumps the tank empty. Pilots have no button, no lever, no mechanism to release waste mid-flight. The airlines are not allowed to dump it, and the plane is not built to let them. That should be the end of the story. Except for one thing: seals fail. The lavatory system runs through valves, pipes, and fittings that take a beating on every flight. Temperature swings from -60 outside to normal cabin temperature inside. Pressure cycles with every ascent and descent. Over time, a seal can develop a slow leak, not a gush, a seep. Fluid works its way out of the waste system and onto the outside of the fuselage. At 35,000 feet, the air outside runs somewhere between -40 and -70 degrees Fahrenheit. Any liquid that hits that air freezes almost instantly. The first seep freezes into a thin layer. The next seep freezes on top of that. Layer by layer, sometimes across multiple flights, a chunk builds up on the belly of the plane. It can get heavy. The mass that fell on Rajrani God's house weighed an estimated 50 kilograms. Here's where the problem moves from the plane to the ground. At cruising altitude, the frozen chunk stays stuck. The cold keeps it locked to the fuselage. But as the plane descends, the air warms. The ice softens at its base. At some point, it lets go. And because the plane is descending toward an airport, it falls on whatever is directly below the approach path. That's why most blue ice impacts happen close to airports. The chunk doesn't fall from 35,000 feet over open countryside. It falls from a few thousand feet, during final approach, onto the neighborhoods directly under the flight path. Amco village sits near Sagar district in Madhya Pradesh. The flight path overhead is real. Deepak Jain, a teacher at the local government school, saw the ice crash into the house. He described a loud impact, a broken roof, and a woman in pain. The Madhya Pradesh Human Rights Commission took notice and ordered the Sagar collector to file a report. Experts said it was likely the first documented case in India where a person was struck and injured by falling aircraft ice. But this story doesn't start in India. In 1971, a chunk of aircraft ice tore a large hole in the roof of the Essex Street Chapel in Kensington, London. The damage was one of the factors that led to the building's demolition. Between 1979 and 2003, researchers documented at least 27 blue ice impacts in the United States. The UK Civil Aviation Authority estimates around 25 to 30 blue ice incidents are reported over UK airspace every year, and that number only counts the ones that get reported. When ice falls in a field or melts before anyone finds it, there's no record. The cases that do get recorded are consistent. In February 2013, A football-sized chunk smashed through a conservatory roof in Clanfield, Hampshire, causing around £10,000 in damage. In November 2011, a chunk broke through a roof in Ratingen-Hersel, Germany. In October 2016, another tore into a house in Amstelveen, Netherlands. In May 2018, two separate chunks fell on residents in Kelowna, British Columbia. In June 2024, a chunk crashed through a home in Paterson, New Jersey, directly under the approach path for Newark Liberty International Airport. Every one of those properties sat under a flight path. Every impact came during descent. And then there's the version that almost nobody talks about, the chunks that hit the planes themselves. The NTSB recorded 3 separate incidents involving Boeing 727s where leaked lavatory waste froze on the fuselage, broke free, and went straight into a rear-mounted engine. All 3 planes lost power in that engine. All 3 made safe landings. Nobody was injured. But frozen sewage causing an engine to lose power is not a minor inconvenience. It's the kind of event that gets logged, investigated, and filed under reasons to maintain your seals. So what happens after a chunk falls on your house? When ice crashes through your roof, you can collect it, smell it, send it for analysis. The blue color and the composition make it identifiable, but tracing it back to a specific aircraft is genuinely hard. Air traffic control can pull records of which planes flew over a given area at a given time. Investigators can narrow it to a handful of flights. Without physical evidence from the plane itself, a positive match is difficult to prove. For Rajrani God, that uncertainty mattered directly. The Human Rights Commission's notice opened the door to compensation. But compensation requires a confirmed source. Officials worked to trace the plane. Whether she ever received anything is not clearly recorded in the public record. The system works exactly as designed until it doesn't. The sealed tank, the vacuum flush, the ground service vehicle, all of it functions correctly when the seals hold. The problem is that seals don't hold forever, and planes that develop slow leaks don't always ground themselves before the next departure. There's no alarm that tells a pilot a leak has started on the outside of the fuselage. The crew inside has no way to see it. The chunk builds in silence, flight by flight, over days or weeks, until a descent into warmer air finally loosens it. The fix is straightforward in theory. Better seals, more frequent inspection of lavatory systems, grounding aircraft that show signs of external leaks. Some airlines have tightened maintenance schedules around lavatory fittings after high-profile incidents. But the economics of aviation push against aggressive preventive maintenance. A plane on the ground is a plane losing money. A slow leak that hasn't caused a reported incident yet is easy to defer. Most blue ice incidents also go unrecorded. A chunk falls in a field. It melts over a few days. No one files a report because no one knows what they're looking at. The 27 documented US cases from 1979 to 2003 almost certainly represent a fraction of what actually fell. The UK's 25 to 30 annual reports are the ones that hit something hard enough to matter and landed close enough to someone who knew to call the Civil Aviation Authority. The actual number is probably much higher. Ask 100 frequent flyers if frozen sewage has ever fallen from a commercial jet onto a residential neighborhood. Most will say no. The answer is yes, in multiple countries, across multiple decades, with documented injuries and property damage running into thousands of pounds and dollars per incident. Rajrani God didn't know about blue ice before December 17, 2015. She was sitting on her terrace in a village in Madhya Pradesh when 50 kilograms of frozen waste dropped out of a clear sky. She survived because of the geometry of her roof. The ice hit the terrace structure first. That absorbed enough force that when it struck her shoulder, it didn't kill her. A few centimeters in any direction, and the story ends differently. No airline stepped forward. No authority confirmed the source aircraft. The Human Rights Commission issued its notice, the collector was ordered to report, and the question of who owed her anything moved through bureaucratic channels while she recovered from a shoulder injury caused by falling frozen sewage from a jet she never saw. The engineering is genuinely good. Vacuum toilet systems are reliable. Sealed tanks work. The whole system is designed around the assumption that the seals hold, and most of the time they do. But most of the time is not all of the time, and the gap between those two things is measured in falling ice. The UK Civil Aviation Authority tracks those 25 to 30 annual reports. The NTSB logs the engine incidents. Human rights commissions file notices. The accountability machinery exists. What it doesn't do is stop the next chunk from forming. Right now, somewhere above a city, a plane is on approach. The air outside is warming. On the belly of that aircraft, completely invisible to the crew, something may already be softening. The people living under flight paths don't think about this. Why would they? You look up and see a plane. You don't think about the slow seep from a valve that's been cycling through pressure changes for 3 years. You don't think about the math that puts your house directly in the drop zone. The next report to the Civil Aviation Authority is already on its way.